Hello, welcome to the next edition of Sweet Competitive List. Today I got 6 lists for you guys today, 3 of which are sort of in the wheelhouse of my specialty list. And then I have 2 that are very similar, and then I have a deck that isn't really in Pioneer, but got a 5-0. So if you like this series, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you order for future videos. We're on our way to 1,000 subs. We're about 140 away. Let's get there together. And make sure you sub because the next season is coming very soon. And one of these decks is similar to what I'm going to be playing in the first week, featuring a brand new card. So let's discuss these decks and let's get into it. So first, Mono White Humans got a 5-0. This deck used to be a very competitive deck. Used to be one of the actual tier 1 meta decks, but it's fallen out of favor really fast, really hard, thanks to a Amalia combo. But the deck looks like it didn't adjust for Amalia outside of Get Lost. Now this deck does happen to have a very good control matchup, because the Thalias do push off the sweepers, temporary lockdowns, and usually we're able to get underneath it fast enough. The Get Lost does help as the choice of removal over something like Obfuscation, which is just a horrible card in general. We still play a couple copies of Brave the Elements to make sure our creatures have protection against removal from black-based strategies. Sideboard, though, we have 4 portable holes for aggro. We could bring it in and get rid of Amalia for good. 2 Containment Priests, also pretty good against Ripper and Amalia, right? Because they do typically play Coco, Cord. 2 Redains to push off Rafts against blue-white. 4 Wedding Announcements for the Rakdos mid-range matchups and grindy matchups. 3 Rest in Peace for Phoenix. That is Mono White Humans for Pioneer. Let's get into the next. Next on my list is Orzoff Humans. Now this deck I thought made a little bit more sense, especially into something like Amalia combo, but this deck does play less removal, only plays 3 Get Lost. Now it also plays 2 Janaras, Gauntless General. It does make your humans indestructible, which is quite valuable against Amalia. We have a Blood-Soaked Champion, which is just one of the better 2 1-drops for humans. So you do gain access to that. Free Booter to get rid of removal and sweepers, and then we have General Kudrow. Other than that, the deck looks pretty similar. And we also, I guess this version picks up Warden of the Inner Sky. Pretty sweet overall. Sideboard, we do gain Thoughtseize, 3 copies for the control matchups and stuff like that. 2 portable holes for a little bit of early removal. 2 Knight of Death's Shadow for Amalia. We do also pick up a couple Hearses for Phoenix matchups. Wedding Announcement for the grinding matchups. Redained for control. Wandering Emperor, also pretty decent against grinding matchups where you kind of want to make a token each turn. Pump your dude. Don't really want to invest in multiple bodies, but a single body. That is Orzoff Humans for Pioneer. Let's get into the next. Next is Dredge, which is honestly pretty awesome. This is basically Salai Dredge. I don't know if it technically splashes. It does not. Any kind of red mana for the entering part, but it does do breaking to help mill yourself for 8. This version plays 3 Haunted Deads, which seems kind of extreme. The version I'm going to be trying out this coming season, because we also picked up that brand new card that you just tutor and put a card in the graveyard, any card you want. So I'm going to be trying that out. But that list, I'm only playing 1 Haunted Dead. I don't think 3 is good, but I could be completely wrong. And also we have Driven into Despair. And that's pretty much our Salai list, main board. It looks like we also cut the enchantment that mills 4. So that seems pretty weird, but we'll see. 4 Pick Your Poisons for Atroxa removal and Ripper removal. Gravestone for our choice of Graveyard Hate. 4 Spell Pierces to get turn the deck into a little bit more of a tempo deck. Counter the early plays from your opponent. 2 Assassin's Trophies because it's kind of a catch-all removal spell. 3 Clean to Dust for a little bit of graveyard hate in conjunction with the Gravestone. That is Salai Dredge for Pioneer. Let's get into the next list. Now, next deck on my list is a deck that I am recently picking up to be featured more often on the channel, is Boros Burn. I think this deck is getting close to being a finalized product, especially the new edition of the new bird, the 1/2. Pretty potent in this deck. We have 3 Eidolons main, 1 side. It's pretty good against Phoenix. We have 4 Kamunos as a way to play aggression early. Bone Crusher is a decent shock that triggers prowess and a 4/3. We have Charm and Helix, which are the best reasons to add white. Play with Fire. Skewer, I'm kind of not sold on the Skewer. I think the better version is going to end up being something that cuts this for the Wizard's Lightning. And we have the new Bird. We have some other options to maybe push Wizards a little bit more in this deck. Just enough to get that sprocked more often. And I think that's going to be the best version of the shell. But sideboard, we do have In the Festivities for Convoke. 2 Rampaging Ferocidons for Amalia. Destroy Evil and a Get Lost. Nice enchantment removal and gets rid of mid-range threats. 3 Searing Bloods for small creatures. I guess we do have 2 more Rampaging Ferocidons at the bottom there. For the Amalia matchup, probably just cut Bone Crusher or some other threat. Bone Crusher does get Amalia, but probably cut the Skewer, honestly. We have Rolling Vortex, also for Amalia, and pretty good against Mentorius and Lotus Field. That is Boros Burn for Pioneer. Let's get into the next. Next on my list is technically Selesnya Ramp for Pioneer. This deck picks up 4 Rejuvenators, which is quite interesting. I have not really played with that card yet. We have 4 Carrietas and 4 Glints for turn 2 ramp. 3 Cavaliers. It's probably a decent number for a bridge ramp spell. Then we have our late game with we have 2 Ugins, an Ulamog, 4 Titan of Industries, and a Leveler. Now this deck does play 2 Sanctum of Ugins, which is pretty reasonable, and I guess a Emrakul at the bottom there. 3 Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, 2 Nykthos. Not really sure what you're going to use for Nykthos, right? Because we don't really add a lot of green pips in general in this deck. 2 Arch of Orza to draw cards. Brushland's really good with the game we're not even playing that Eldrazi, so it's only in there for Elish Norn to shut off Leyline Binding and stuff like that. We have 2 layers, 5, 6 Forest. And like I said, that's pretty reasonable of a deck. 1 up the Beanstalk main, 3 side for control. Then we have another Ulamog, also pretty decent against control. 4 Warping Whales, stop stuff like pour over pages. Also can remove small threats. Elish Norn, we kind of covered that. It's pretty decent against not necessarily Phoenix or Ripper or Control. But it is decent against stuff like Incarnation, which plays a bunch of Leyline Bindings, Contorius, stuff like that. Then we have another Cavalier. Probably we could bring in against Spirits and other aggressive decks where we kind of want to lower our curve. Then we have Contortion for a little bit of cheap removal. So it's kind of essentially just mono-colored with a splash of white. Pretty reasonable deck. If you want to try out any of these lists, they're in the description. Make sure you check them out. Let's get into the last list, which is the deck that I specialize in. And I've written an article about it. So if you want to also read any of these kind of decks that I have picked up as a quote-unquote specialty, make sure you look down in the description for a link to my Patreon or my Locals. Locals does have portions of the deck guides and all that for free. There is a portion that's behind a paywall. So if you're interested in supporting my work, that is the way you could do it. Let's get into the next one. Next on my list is Boros Panar. Now this deck is kind of based. I love this deck in general because it kind of functions as two different things, right? Sometimes it could be the aggressor, and it does a really good job at doing so. And also this deck could pivot and be a mid-range pile, because we do have Impulse, Resolve, Showdown. So we have a lot of card draw on this deck. 3 Play with Fires for a little bit of burn with our Chain of the Rocks to get rid of chunky threats. Get Lost, also kind of a catch-all removal spell. We have Bone Crusher, since it does trigger Pia when you cast it from Avenger. 3 Raining Volleys for removal for Amalia. 1 Get Lost, also pretty reasonable against Amalia. We have 2 Priests for Ripper. We have 2 Rest in Peace for Phoenix. 3 Thralls, kind of a decent, sideboard card. We have even Mind Sensor to stop our opponent from searching. Look top 4 instead. Then we have Redained as a way to hate on control, stuff like that have a lot of sweepers. Also pretty good against pour over pages and Lotus Field. That is the last deck we have to talk about. Like I said, all these lists will be in the description. Let me know which deck you thought was the sweetest. I want to know all that. Like I said, all these stuff that I'm talking about for the main channel, I'm going to be putting more and more articles up on my Patreon and my locals. If there is a deck you wish to request, you could always do so by either joining the Discord in the link description below or etc. Also, if you want me to write an article for you, the $20 option gives you the option where I will play your deck through a league on stream, so that way I get enough feel of the deck while I play with it, and then I write an article and also upgrades that you could take to make the deck a little bit better and address some concerns that I've seen with the deck. If any of those things interest you, they're all in the description. But until next time, where we're most likely the next video we're going to be recording is the video where I break down the top 10 list, top 10, 15 cards from the new set, including the big score. So until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.